Cassie, and in my Japanese kitchen today we're going to take a look at the difference between Japanese and British potato salad. If you're in a rush and you just want to find out how to make a Japanese potato salad, then I have a shorter video right here. We're going to be using the exact same Japanese potato salad recipe today, but I'm going to be showing you the difference between the Japanese one and the British one and how to make them both as tasty as possible. One of the most obvious differences between the British and Japanese potato salads is the texture. Japanese potato salad has a mashed texture, more like a mashed potato, whereas the British one uses potato chunks. Although there are some British recipes that use a similar mashed style to the Japanese style, the most common recipe seems to use potato chunks. Another big difference is in the variation. Of course, Japanese potato salad has variations. You're going to see different types in different izakaya with different chefs, maybe even in different supermarkets, but there is definitely a base potato salad. Whereas in the UK, there are so many influences from Europe, mainly from Germany,
that it's hard to pin down exactly what a base British potato salad is.
Then of course with that variety comes different toppings and different base ingredients. In the Japanese version we have Kewpie mayonnaise, mustard and vegetables. But in the British version we have Hellmann's mayonnaise, shallots, mustard and herbs. And lastly, for any potato salad, what is very important is the type of potato that you use. Before getting really into cooking and actually before getting into this potato salad recipe, I had no idea that there were so many different types of potatoes and that they actually made such a difference to the recipe. When it comes to potato salad, then you need to use a small and waxy potato. That means a new potato, a Charlotte potato, or a fingerling potato. And if you're in Japan, a May Queen or Shinjaga. These small and waxy potatoes are going to hold their shape well when boiling and give us an almost creamy texture. However, if you use a bigger and floury potato, like a russet potato or a Japanese akari potato, then you're going to end up with a drier and almost slightly gritty potato salad. And you'll find that the outside might start to fall apart before the inside is properly cooked, and it will be harder to peel after boiling. It's not impossible to make potato salad with these other types of potatoes, so if you're in a pinch then you can go for it. Just note that the texture will be different and you won't get as much of a creamy and luxurious potato salad as you might with a small and waxy potato. So those are the main differences between Japanese and British potato salad, so let's take a look at how to make them.
We've gone over the main differences in ingredients already, but the potatoes are the only things that stay exactly the same. Everything else is going to contribute to small differences in the recipe that will make it taste more characteristic of that country.
So for our Japanese potato salad, surprise surprise, we're going to start with the potatoes. I have my pre-washed potatoes here and we're going to cover them with cold, salty water. And we're making the water very salty to bring out the flavour of the potatoes. Then we're going to bring them to a boil so that they cook evenly. We're leaving the skins on partly because it's easier to peel them once they're boiled, but also because it stops them from breaking down in the water. And you know that they're done when you can stick a fork through them easily. So now that we've checked that our potatoes are done, we're going to dunk them straight into cold or ice water. I'm using cold water, so I'm just going to refresh the water every few minutes. And whilst we're waiting for the potatoes to cool down, we're going to prepare our vegetables. We're going to cut the cucumbers into 4 and then slice them. Because I have this large chunk of carrot, then we're going to be cutting this one into 6 and then slicing it. Once we've done slicing them, we're going to cover them in a thin layer of salt and leave them for 10 minutes. Now we can peel our potatoes. Did I say that this was supposed to be easier after boiling? Well, at least I know keeping the skin on stopped them from disintegrating a bit. So now that we've done the most boring part, which is peeling them, it's onto the fun part where we get to mash the hell out of them. This is where our Japanese potato salad differs to our British potato salad because we're using rice vinegar. Both recipes use a type of vinegar, but this rice vinegar is going to give it that slight Japanese twist. If you're still looking for some rice vinegar, I've put a link to some in the description below. Then after the 10 minutes is up, we're going to rinse off that salt and squeeze our vegetables through a sieve to get rid of any excess moisture. You could also use a cheesecloth or other kind of cloth to get rid of this moisture. And now that our carrot and cucumber slices are ready, we're going to add everything together with the mayo and mustard. You can use whichever mustard you like. The typical one in Japan is just a standard yellow mustard, but I prefer the tang of whole grain mustard. All you need to do is mix it all together. And there we have it, a Japanese potato salad.
Using the waxy potatoes has made this potato salad almost buttery, but how does that compare to our British potato salad?
Right, so I've got my second batch of potatoes ready for my British potato salad. This is definitely not a low-carb week for me. So now we're going to dice our shallots and cut up our parsley. Shallots are kind of like a mini onion, but they're a lot sweeter. And to prepare these, we're basically going to cut them every which way. So we're going to cut them in half, peel them, then cut them horizontally, then cut them vertically, then cut them perpendicular to those cuts. Did you get that? Okay, now for the parsley. For the parsley, there is such a thing as bruising herbs. This basically just happens when you cut your herbs too much and give it too much contact time with the knife. And usually if you have green stuff on your cutting board, that means you've bruised your herbs. This does actually have some merits. It brings out more of the herb's flavor. However, it does make the herbs go black, so it's not very good for presentation. So to avoid bruising our herbs, we're going to give it minimal contact time with the knife. And I'm just going to cut them into strips and then cut that again. So now we're just going to whisk our oil, mustard and vinegar together. This is going to create a nice coating for our potatoes before we add everything else. So now we just need to cut up our potatoes. If you want to give them as much coating as possible, then it's a good idea to cut them quite small, but usually they're in relatively big chunks, so we're just gonna do sort of medium chunks here. So the way that we treat our potatoes also differs from the Japanese version because we're leaving the skins on, and that gives it quite a rustic vibe. And now we're just going to coat those in our oil mixture before adding our mayo, our onions, and our parsley. And I have specifically found Hellmann's mayonnaise just for you guys. I mean, I suppose it's from me, but just so that it would be authentically British, I have found Hellmann's mayonnaise. So I hope you appreciate the extra effort that I went to find that in Japan. And now we're just going to add our chopped shallots, herbs, and our mayo. And then just season to taste, and now we can compare it to our Japanese potato salad. I even made some little flags. Ta-da! Okay, let's try some. So that one is very creamy. It's kind of like a mashed potato. And I didn't put too much mustard in this one. I think I'll add some for myself later. But there's a nice texture difference with the carrot. And otherwise it's just like creamy versus crunchy, and it's just like a really nice combination. Whereas this British one, I don't know if I can get a good, there we go. Oh my god, that's a huge chunk. Ah! It was 2 pieces. So this one with the British mayonnaise makes it have a lot less of a tang. I think if you like the tangy flavour, then you can add a little bit more vinegar, or you could even just use the Japanese mayonnaise. I used it with the Japanese mayonnaise the other day and it was quite like a nice bite to it. But this way the onion flavours make it really stand out from the Japanese one, but they're both quite a mild flavour really. To be honest, I think I might prefer the Japanese one because I find that really addictive and I can just eat it whenever. Whereas with the British one, I would expect to have this with a proper dinner. Not something that I could just take out of the fridge and just snack on whenever. But they do both have their separate uses and I think that they're both really tasty, so I hope that you give them a try. I hope you enjoyed learning about the differences between Japanese and British food, but that's it for today, so I'll see you next week. Bye!